Proszę Państwa, znajdujemy się w Westwood, w zachodniej części Los Angeles. Za chwilę spotkamy się z niezwykle ciekawą osobą, z panią Terry Tegnazian. Pani Terry Tegnazian jest Ormianką, która wydaje książki o tematyce historycznej dotyczącej udziału Polaków w II wojnie światowej.
Hello. Can we get Terry for you, see?
Yes, we're sorry, we are late.
Oh, not to worry, see? They're here.
Okay. Hey.
Terry, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Yes.
Good to see you. Good to
This
see
is
you. Yeah.
This
Hello.
is Hubert Gorczyca.
I'm sorry. What's his name?
Hubert Gorczyca.
Hubert. Hi.
Terry, thank you very much for meeting us. I'm a huge fan of yours. Not too many people do what you do, and obviously you found a niche that is unusual for a person that is not Polish born. How did it happen?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming to interview us. I'm thrilled to be here with you today, Wojciech. I have to say I was hooked by the heroism of the Poles, and I certainly didn't start out to start a publishing company about Poland in World War II. I used to practice law here in Los Angeles and burned out doing that. I started writing a book that had a World War II backstory, and somewhere I'd heard about the Polish fighter pilots being these super ace pilots during World War II, and I thought, well, maybe I'll make a character, a Polish fighter pilot. So I went to UCLA and I started researching about Poland in World War II. That led me to this business.
No, this is not about just the Polish pilots. I see that you published 8 books, and they have a very diverse topics that they cover.
Right. Well, I am actually one of the proudest moments was when we were able to obtain the rights to 303 Squadron, which is the best known book about the Polish pilots. We published this in 2010 in a brand new translation, which Mark Fiedler, the son of Arkady Fiedler, the author, asked us to do a new English translation. And that was the first time in English that it identified who the pilots actually were.
I see that some of your books had translations in other languages, so English is not the only language that your books are published in.
Correct. We've actually been very fortunate to sell translation rights. I think once a book is translated to English, if it originally appeared in Polish, it's easier for publishers around the world to then translate into their languages. I would say our most translated book is The Auschwitz Volunteer Beyond Bravery, which is Witold Pilecki's most comprehensive report about his undercover mission at Auschwitz.
So this book was translated into
Italian? No, let me show you. Here's the Finnish version. Here is the Taiwanese Chinese version. Here is the mainland China version. There are 2 different types of language.
Yes.
This is the Portuguese version, the German version, and we have the Italian version.
This is beyond comprehension. No one has done so much to publicize this report as you've done so far. And I'm saying this because I know that no one else have done that much. So
well, thank you. And I will tell you, we were extremely excited because we got a wonderful review in the New York Times Sunday Book Review, where the New York Times called this book a historical document of the greatest importance. And then last summer, the Wall Street Journal called this book one of the 5 best books about wartime secret missions, which we're really, of course, very excited about. I actually took an ad. Let me see if I can find it for you. We prepared an ad based on that we've taken in a number of different magazines. This was the ad that we prepared based on the Wall Street Journal. One of the 5 best books on wartime secret missions, which is pretty great praise, I think.
I think that the Polish community should really help you with the advertising costs, because
yeah, that would be great.
Obvious
obviously.
that any kind of activity of this type requires marketing, and I do believe that we can do much more for you than we've done so far.
Well, that would be great. Let me show you some of the ads we took. World War II History Magazine did a special issue on Adolf Hitler. So we did an ad opposite the table of contents, which is where I try to have our ads. Poland, the first to fight Hitler. Just to remind people that Poland was the first to fight Hitler. They did a special edition on the Russian front, which of course they meant the Russian front 1941 to 45. We did an ad, the first Russian front, talking about Poland and then Katyn and some of what really happened in the first 2 years of the war, to remind people that Russia was not always an ally, which they don't remember. We've also done an ad which I call Which Ally, because I want to remind most people, especially in America, don't understand, if they know anything, don't even know that Poland was an ally, but don't understand how much Poland did. So we have Which Ally ran the largest non-communist resistance organization in occupied Europe. Which ally had the highest scoring fighter squadron in the Battle of Britain, of course, which was 303 Squadron, and then which ally carried out a daring, nearly 3-year-long undercover mission at Auschwitz, and the Auschwitz Volunteer. I also, and then again, just a reminder, the first to fight Hitler. We also recently ran an ad called Freedom is Not Free. This is Julian Kulski, author of The Color of Courage, which is his teenage diary. His dad was the deputy mayor of Warsaw, and Julian was a 10-year-old Boy Scout when the war broke out. His scoutmaster recruited him into the underground army at age 12, and he ran a secret mission into the ghetto at age 13, arrested by the Gestapo at age 14, and then fought in the Warsaw Uprising at age 15, taken prisoner by the Germans. And he is still alive. He's amazing in Washington, D.C. This book is his wartime diary. And we've done something very special with this book. Let me see if I have it. Color of Courage, which actually won both a silver and a gold at the Ben Franklin. Actually, all of our books have won awards, one or more awards. We're very proud of that. But with this book, I spent a lot of time researching and licensing original historical film footage. And I worked with the film and sound editors here in Los Angeles to create 11 digital extras. We call them digital extras. There are 11 short videos, mostly under 3 minutes. They're posted on YouTube, but they're unlisted because obviously I'd like people to buy the book, but you can access them if you have a smartphone with a QR code reader. You can run your smartphone over the QR code, or we have the URL underneath. So that's really, for us, super exciting. We thought it was a great way to try and bring younger people in. In fact, all of our books, we try and use a lot of photographs and illustrations to bring, because people like to see pictures. So sometimes we spend as much time researching and licensing photographs as we do doing the editing and typesetting. And that hopefully brings the books to life more than just black and white text.
Mixing different media is important in this age, obviously. Young people have not often enough patience to just concentrate
to read.
on the text, so
yes.
It is always helpful.
We do have one DVD, which is Siege, original footage by Julian Bryan of the Siege of Warsaw in September 1939. This is a 10-minute newsreel that was nominated for an Academy Award in 1940 and has been inducted into the United States National Film Registry as one of this country's most important films. And we added additional material to the DVD so that we licensed this from Julian Bryan's son. And we included in the beginning, we have a small handout that goes with it with the contents, and then a little kind of timeline about World War II that highlights a lot of the Polish accomplishments.
Not too many people in the United States know those facts.
No, of course not.
So it is great to have it in such a format.
Thank you. So some of the other books, our first book was The Mermaid and the Messerschmitt. It's an unusual account by a young working mother with 2 young children. She, born and raised in Warsaw, has graduated from Vassar College here in the United States in 1928, which is amazing. She came on a scholarship from, I think, the Kościuszko Foundation, actually. Went back, worked for the J. Walter Thompson Agency in Warsaw as an advertising copywriter, married her boss, they had 2 kids, and when the war broke out, he was in the diplomatic service here, posted here in the U.S. She was there with her, I think it was an 8 and a 5-year-old, something like that, and living with her mother. And this is her story of the first 6 months of the war. It's so well done. Again, we did win an award as our first book, filled with photos. We've done a number of events about this, a number of events with that. I work with an actress, actually, on that. Our second book was The Ice Road. This is about the Kresy Siberia experience, written by Stefan Weidenfeld. And he was a teenager during he and his parents were deported to Siberia. And he writes in a very lively, easy to, all of our books, actually, I try and do books that would be accessible, easy for the general reader to understand, The Ice Road is the only book that has been published in Polish so far. One of our other books, the Maps and Shadows, this is written by a young woman about her parents' family and their experience, their Kresy Siberia experience. It's in a way, a more literary take, because she divides the story. She tells the story from 4 points of view: from her father, from the father, the mother, the young boy, and the teenage girl. You also ventured into the area of poetry. And that's right. Our most recent book is Echoes of Tattered Tongues, which has actually won 2 awards by John Guzlowski. He tells the story of his parents who were taken as slave laborers by the Germans. They were young Christian Poles taken to concentration camps and were able to survive, married after the war, and then had John and his sister in a German displaced persons camp in Germany after the war. And so this is his take on his parents' experience, on what it was like to come to America as immigrants after the war. And at the end of his parents' life, talking about his relationship with them toward the end of his life. And he uses mostly poetry. It's a very unusual approach to the material. And when John first called me about the book, I listened to him and I said, "Oh, John, poetry doesn't sell. It's such a hard sell." And he said, "Well, just read it, okay?" All right, so he sent me the manuscript, and it was so powerful. I said to him, "Okay, we have to publish this."
No, the book got 2 awards.
2 awards,
right
it did,
now.
yeah,
Yes.
so we're very proud of that. Now, the other thing is that we've done, we have a number of audiobooks. This one, we actually produced an audiobook ourselves. I hired an actor, we worked with an actor and a sound editor. The Auschwitz Volunteer, we licensed the rights to audible.com, and it's out downloadable online. I mean, actually, this is downloadable only right now from audible.com. Auschwitz Volunteer is available in MP3 and DVDs, and also downloadable. We also have audiobooks for The Mermaid and the Messerschmitt and The Ice Road. And I think I didn't mention that Julian's book, The Color of Courage, has come out in a Brazilian edition, in Portuguese in Brazil. So we're pretty excited about our program and about about some of the reception that we've had.
You're a true icon in the Polish community. At least I'm a huge fan of
Thank you.
everything that you do, and it is obvious that I'm almost ashamed that the Polish community has not done more for you, and I will try to publicize your achievements, which are obvious, and we'll try to improve the relations
That would
with
be great.
your publishing house.
Really, Wojciech, I would welcome that. In fact, some of the things that people could do, of course, number one is to buy our books. Number two would be to talk about them, to write great reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. The books are available, certainly online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble for sure. They're also, we're distributed by one of the biggest independent book distributors in the U.S. We're distributed in the U.S., Canada, Western Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. And our books are also available through every major wholesaler. So you can order it online, but also you should be able to go to your local bookstore and have them order it for you if they don't already have it in stock.
They also have great educational value, and I
Right.
understand that you did some work to make it more accessible for the history teachers.
Yes, in fact, we started with The Color of Courage. We thought that because this book covers, it was a diary of a boy from ages 10 to 16, it would be appropriate for high school students. Also, of course, because we have lots of pictures in it, pull quotes, and the videos. And so I retained one of the leading young adult nonfiction experts in the United States, to prepare an educator's guide for teachers for us. And it's correlated with the Common Core standards, so every lesson in here is tied to one of the standards. And you know, we include a little summary. She has some pre-reading exercises, a number of discussion questions, a vocabulary section. Let's see. Then she does the digital tie-ins, talking about the videos, having the kids choose a video and then write about it.
Yeah, I understand that the educational standards are very different in different school districts.
Yes.
So what is required in California might be different than required
Yes.
in New York or other states.
Yes.
It creates a bit of complication as far as preparation of those materials.
Well, that's true, and that's why she did it with she tied it to the Common Core standards. These are a set of national standards. They're actually somewhat controversial. Some states have adopted them, some states have adopted versions of them, some states have not adopted them at all, but at least it's something to give you some structure, to give a teacher some structure as to how perhaps they can use the material.
No, this is in itself a huge achievement. What new are you working on?
Well, our newest book, which will be coming out at the end of this year or early next year, is a new edition of Fighting Auschwitz, The Resistance Movement in the Concentration Camp by Joseph Garlinski. We're working with his son Jarek to do a brand new edition full of pictures again. And this is a broader story of the underground movement in Auschwitz. It starts with Pilecki and expands out, because Garlinski himself was a prisoner in Auschwitz. And in preparing this book, which was actually research, based on research he did for his PhD dissertation after the war at the University of London, the London School of Economics, he was able to talk with surviving prisoners. They trusted him because he had been in Auschwitz. He looked at German language sources, Polish language, Russian, and also some Czech sources, as well as obviously relying on Pilecki's report. So we're very excited to see this book come out.
No, I wasn't even aware of this position, so
yeah, it
credits
is.
to
Yeah,
you.
well, it's really again a little-known story that opened with Pilecki's report, and what most people know about Auschwitz is the Holocaust, the death of the Jews. And most people don't understand that Auschwitz was actually started in 1940 as a prison for Polish political prisoners and intelligentsia, and actually as a terror tactic. The Germans used to just surround a block and round up everybody in that block, whether they old, new, young, old, whatever, whether they had anything to do with the underground or not. And they would send them to Auschwitz just as a way to terrorize the population. And it wasn't until 1942 that Auschwitz became a death camp for Jews. So, of course, Jews were caught up. There were many Jews in the intelligentsia in Poland, doctors, lawyers, teachers, and they often were caught up, along with priests, in the early days of Auschwitz. But the real industrial death effort didn't begin until 1942.
I know about this part of the history of the camp because two of my family members were murdered there in 1941.
Oh.
Terry, before we go, maybe you can explain the meaning of the Latin name of your the publishing house.
Certainly. Aquila Polonica means Polish eagle in Latin, and our logo is the Polish eagle with the royal crown.
No, it is a beautiful logo.
Thank you.
And the name sounds familiar.
Thank you.
So we are so thankful for all your work.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll try to help in any way we can. We'll be spreading the word. And
Much appreciated.
no, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
for
my
all your
pleasure.
work.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.